Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Cole Kosh, and today we're going to talk about vaping. Whoa, don't leave. This isn't going to be like every other drug PSA where some adult stands in front of a camera saying,
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
yeah, a few. This one's going to be from a perspective that you may not have heard. Teenagers. Multiple teenagers, actually. You're going to be hearing from kids in high school and middle school about what they know about vaping, how they've been pressured, and how they've handled it. And later, I'm going to talk to a friend who vapes about his experience. First, I wanted to get everyone on the same page and talk about where they've seen vaping.
In the restroom, a lot of people vape.
The guy's restroom, and there is generally one or two people at any given time just chilling, just vaping. It's honestly kind of annoying because I want to be able to use the restroom without just clouds of vape in the air, but what can you do?
She put up like her sleeve to conceal the vape and then went like this and then blew the smoke up into the air.
In the restrooms.
Also in the bathroom.
In the bathrooms. I think some outside also.
Well, during freshman year, I was in the restroom and I was washing my hands, and I saw like it was vapors, but I thought it was smoke for some reason. I was like, oh my gosh, there's a fire in the restroom. I need to go tell someone. And I was saying this all out loud, which was kind of embarrassing. I kind of talk to myself sometimes. Everyone does it, don't lie. Anyway, so I saw like smoke and I'm like, oh my God, there's a fire in the restroom. And then this girl like opened this stall and she was like, oh no, it's just me, I'm just vaping. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know what a vape was. So I was like, oh, okay, of course, a vape. And then she's like, you want some? And I'm like, I'm all right. I'm pretty sure I said, I was like, oh, I already did my vape today because I wanted to like seem cool because I was like a freshman and I'm pretty sure she was a senior. And yeah, but I didn't because I was scared and I don't think I want to do that.
So if vaping is as ever present as it seems, why don't we know more about it? And what should we know? So what are vapes? Vapes come in many different shapes and sizes, but they all operate in a similar way, by converting liquid chemicals into a gas that you can inhale. The most common vape that kids tend to use is Juul. So let's talk about that. What exactly is a Juul? A Juul is comprised of three parts: the device, the charger, and the pod. The Juul device is a small aluminum stick that holds the battery that powers the Juul. The Juul device is charged using the USB charging dock, and when combined with the Juul device, it looks a lot like a USB stick. And finally, the Juul pod, which holds the e-liquid, also known as juice, the heating element that turns the juice into vapor, and the mouthpiece where you can inhale that vapor. So let's take a look at what's in this juice. No, not that type of juice. Wrong again, not that one either. Okay, that's not even juice, that's just a pineapple, the vape one. Yeah, okay, there we go. The main ingredients in vape juice are glycerol, propylene glycol, nicotine, benzoic acid, and some various flavorants. First, let's talk about glycerol and propylene glycol. These two main liquid ingredients turn into gas when heated. They're both sweet and are considered food safe by the FDA, but no studies have been released about repetitive inhalation. The next ingredient is our good old friend nicotine. Nicotine is a highly addictive chemical component that naturally occurs in tobacco. Dependence can develop within days, and the difficulty of quitting nicotine products like cigarettes and chewing tobacco is well established. For decades, the tobacco industry had tried to hide both the addictive and harmful nature of nicotine and compared it to the urges of chocolate and love and shopping, but at this point, scientists have established just how addictive nicotine can be, and even made a list of drugs that are less addictive than nicotine. Here are some notable examples. Again, Nicotine is more addictive than any of those drugs. But nicotine isn't just addictive. It can also be quite harmful. The side effects of nicotine are many, although they're typically not as well publicized as the risks of cancer from the combustion in cigarettes. Nicotine can have harmful systemic effects on your body, from harming your heart and circulatory system to joint and muscle pain and many other health problems that you should hope to avoid. Most immediately relevant to teenagers, nicotine can harm brain development, which continues into our mid-20s. Also, vaping makes you more irritable, aggressive, and impatient, but that's not all. Nicotine can also alter our sleep, increase anxiety, reduce impulse control, and lead to mood disorders. And none of those are on my wish list. These problems are made even worse in Juuls because there's a lot more nicotine. Juul actually has more than twice the nicotine concentration of many other vaping products. Juul also contains a large amount of benzoic acid, which is known to cause sore throats, coughing, abdominal pain, nausea, and vomiting. Benzoic acid is used in vapes to increase the potency of the nicotine. And while most e-cigarette brands have a benzoic acid concentration between 0.2 and 2 milligrams per milliliter, Juul is at 44.8 milligrams per milliliter, which is more than 40 times that amount. Juuls also come in many flavors, and there are many different flavorings used in each of them. Now that may sound nice, but it can actually be quite dangerous. Lots of chemicals can be added for flavoring, and even some that aren't allowed in cigarettes, like vanillin, a compound used for vanilla flavoring. Vanillin can mix with other ingredients in a Juul to create chemicals that irritate your airways. The amount of vanillin in a flavored Juul pod is already close to the safety limit for a workplace where vanillin would be used, like a bakery. Little is known about other reactions that could occur when flavorants are added, but there could be many more risks. So who are these vapes actually intended for? Well, this guy apparently, but besides that. Vaping in the US started around 2005. It was marketed as a safe and effective alternative to smoking. But now tons of people who have never had a smoking habit are starting to use vapes, which is a little strange. I mean, why would you do something that's meant as a treatment for a problem that you don't have? It's like experimenting with methadone or wearing a cast as a fashion statement or doing chemotherapy as a hobby. These are all things that I wouldn't want to do unless I had to. While most of what we've talked about here today has been about Juul, it's not the only dangerous product. Many other lesser-known manufacturers have products that have been known to contain dangerous materials. Some have been known to contain dangerous amounts of lead, or even batteries that were prone to explosion that could damage the user's face or even kill them. So where did vaping come from? Early forms of vaping were actually developed in the 60s and again in the 80s, but neither caught on with the public. But then, in 2003, a Chinese pharmacist named Han Leek made the first official e-cigarette, and it spread across China. The invention then made its way to Europe, and in August of 2006, the first electronic cigarettes were imported into America. But then you know who got involved? Who? No, like who? In 2008, the World Health Organization claimed that they do not consider electronic cigarettes to be a legitimate smoking cessation aid, and they demanded that marketers immediately remove any suggestion that they did from both vaping products and advertising. Then the FDA stepped in as well. The FDA put e-cigarettes on import alert and told Customs and Border Protection to reject the entry of electronic cigarettes into the US. They did this on the basis that e-cigarettes were unapproved drug delivery devices. But vape manufacturers brought them to court, and won after significant industry lobbying efforts, meaning that vapes could not be regulated as drug delivery devices. From there, vaping in America took off with an expanding amount of brands. Then, in 2017, a new player entered the ring. They had been spun out of Pax Labs, who had made the first American e-cigarette, and they were called Juul. Juul took off almost immediately, becoming one of the most widely used vaping products. They accomplished this by making their product more sleek, adding fun flavorings, and spreading colorful advertisements with young-looking models smiling and holding Juuls. Unfortunately, that type of advertising and flavoring targeted children more than it did adults. Juul claimed that its devices were intended to improve adult smokers' lives by eliminating cigarettes. However, studies showed that people who used Juul tended to be younger than traditional smokers. In fact, a Truth Initiative study showed that 15 to 17-year-olds were 16 times more likely to be current Juul users compared to 25 to 34-year-olds. And while Juul has occasionally taken steps to remove marketing that seems specifically targeting kids, that still means that they had marketing that was specifically targeting kids. Plus, the fact remains that many of us are already addicted or are still being drawn in. One other marketing message that tends to be thrown around that can also draw kids in is the statement that vapes are healthier than cigarettes. Now that sounds like a good thing, but it is not a high bar. Breaking your arm is healthier than heavy internal bleeding, but I'm not putting my arm in a 10-ton hydraulic press anytime soon. And if you do want to compare vaping to smoking, then we can do that. Juul is partially owned by Altria, the company that was part of Big Tobacco's lie that cigarettes were harmless. And many new vape ads do look oddly similar to old ads for cigarettes. The only difference is that the ads aren't on TV like Joe Camel was. These ads are on YouTube and Reddit and other social media platforms. And instead of famous actors smoking on TV, there are YouTubers and social media stars vaping on camera. Plus, the peer pressure to vape can come from real life and social media. Dealers can also pressure you into trying to vape. Dealers can be adults, older siblings, or even your friends. And they may say that they want you to vape so that you can be cool, and they may say that it's safe, but they just want your money, either to spend on themselves or on their own habits. And I don't mean to be overdramatic, but we really do need to think about who we listen to and what we put in our body, because we have to make that decision. When you buy a vape, it benefits these corporations and whoever's selling it to you, but it doesn't help you. Vaping can start as early as middle school, so how much of this is common knowledge to middle schoolers? What are the parts to a Juul?
I don't know.
There's the pod. I think that's what contains the nicotine, and then there's the rest of it.
I don't know.
I know there's a pod, and I know there's like the thing you actually like, I guess, suck the air out of, but I'm not really sure.
So, what are the parts of a Juul pod?
I don't know.
Well, maybe there's like the liquid, I guess, that like has the nicotine and like stuff in it, and then there's like the actual like pod, and then you put that in the Juul, and then yeah. I have no idea.
I think there's got to be nicotine in there, so maybe like juices with the nicotine and flavor.
Raise your hand if you know what benzoic acid is. Okay. Raise your hand if you think that the drug that I say is more addictive than nicotine. Marijuana. Alcohol. Cocaine. Heroin. Well, they clearly don't know. But those are middle school students. Surely high school students will be far more knowledgeable about vaping.
No, got no idea. Nope.
I have literally zero clue. No idea.
And there's cancer that is involved. Lung cancer, throat cancer, mouth cancer.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it just sounds like something that would give you cancer. I'm going with that. If I'm right, I'll look smart, I guess.
And then in terms of long-term effects, I don't know any long-term effects.
Why aren't we taught more about the dangers of vaping? Aren't we taught about the dangers of smoking?
Smoking harms nearly every organ in the body, reduces your health, and causes many diseases.
And the dangers of drugs?
Okay, let's blow the dust off the textbooks. What are drugs?
And let's not forget about alcohol.
Butter and toast. Mix. Robots and tacos. Sorta mix. But kids and alcohol.
Don't mix.
So if those exist, what education do we have for vaping?
Well, I feel like in school they talk about it, and then I see things in social media about it.
I've just been taught that they're kind of like addictive and that you shouldn't do them because they're unhealthy. but I haven't really learned like more about them. And I learned it in a health course I took.
Some of it I've learned in school, but I feel like they don't have enough like information to give us yet.
I've learned that vapes are bad, and we learned a little bit about it in health, but there's a lot of really cryptic ads online.
I don't know a lot about it, but I remember having to do an essay on this, on sort of like vapes versus cigarettes in 8th grade. But that was a majority of where I like know most of my information about vapes.
There was a little kind of convention type of thing in the middle of our school. And it was just like there was a whole bunch of screens and there was like a couple of people like stations kind of that you could go to. There was like a little like vape juice bar and they would do like their little like presentation.
Yeah, just like little seminars at school.
I have been taught just bad, vape bad, put down to vape, it bad. From the same sort of talks.
So if vaping is as common as it seems, how do you not get caught up in it?
Well, if I get offered like a vape, I'll say no, and then like I don't really feel like I need to vape or anything, like it's gonna help my life in any way, so there's not really any reason for me to vape, so I just don't feel like I need to do it.
I don't know, if a friend just like offers me a vape, I'll just be like, no thanks, and then they'll just like shrug it off, you know.
So saying no has never really been an issue because like people won't judge you for it or anything. They're just like they understand your point.
I think people know that I'm uncomfortable with that, and so I've never really been offered, but again, I don't really feel the need to vape, so just say no.
I mean, like, I don't know. I've never had the issue of feeling pressured into stuff. I just sort of say no. You know? I think that's it's a lesson in there's a lesson in like self-confidence and not being a pushover to be sort of learned from that. I'm sure that's how a large amount of people get into vaping in the first place, is not having that confidence.
I make jokes about it because I feel like if a person is genuinely trying to get you to do something you don't want to do, sort of like ridiculing them about that makes them sort of think twice about, maybe I shouldn't be like trying to get her to do that.
It's like saying no and being persistent. I think persistence is probably the key. If someone is persistent to you, you know, you have to kind of show that strength of being like, no. And also being aware, and I guess like being aware that if someone is really pressuring you to do that, then and like trying not to accept you if you don't, then they're probably not the best person.
I think just saying no, and I don't know, people could like continue to like pressure you or whatever, but I think if you you just can't let people get in your head and be like, oh, like if you don't vape, then you're a loser. Well, I'm sure they say other things to be persuasive, but I think just saying no, you just have to stick your ground. And I know that's difficult for some people because it's high school and middle school, and people are just trying to fit in. But if you have it's a lot easier than you think. Like if that person that you want to be friends with is pressuring you into do it, or anyone who's pressuring you into doing it, like if you say no and they don't want to be your friend anymore, it's not the end of the world. It's just high school, and that's probably going to help you in the long run. Not doing vapes or vaping, I don't know. But yeah, so just say no. The worst thing that can happen is that you might not have that friend anymore, or you might not know that person anymore. But that person could be if they're pressuring you into doing anything, that's not good. So say no to drugs. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. Don't do drugs. But I don't know. You can edit that part out. Okay.
Finally, I wanted to get the perspective of someone who vapes, and a friend was willing to share his experience. Thank you for being open to this interview. So, when did you get into vaping?
I started in the 7th grade.
My older brother vaped with some of his friends at parties, and they offered them to me. It didn't seem like a big deal. If I'm being honest, I thought it would make me fit in better with my brother's friends. I started doing it a couple times a day, but it didn't take long before I couldn't go an hour without a hit.
What type of vape did you use?
Juul, always Juul. Easy to hide, easy to use, and everyone's got Juul pods at school. I had two Juuls, one in my room that I hid under my mattress, and one in my locker at school. I would use the one at home constantly, and I'd carry around the school one in my backpack.
Have you noticed any problems?
I get really winded at football practice. It doesn't seem to matter that I'm in better shape because my lungs just don't feel right. Also, it sometimes hurts to breathe, especially after I drink water, which is really weird. The worst is when I go without a hit for too long. I feel anxious all the time. And in class or practice, I find myself obsessing about it. I'll go to the bathroom in the middle of class just so I can take a hit. The worst is when I'd be taking a test and can't concentrate. I even take hits in the classroom when the teacher isn't looking.
When did you know that you were addicted?
Probably freshman year when I dug through a bathroom trash can trying to find partially used pods because I had run out. It's easy to find pods in the bathroom trash. And my friends joke about other kids searching for pods in the trash. When I found myself doing it, I knew I had a problem, and I still couldn't stop myself.
Were you ever caught?
Not in school. It was easier in middle school because the teachers didn't really expect it, although lots of kids were doing it. In high school, we had to be a little more careful because they try to catch us, but it's still very easy to hide. Groups of us would go to the bathroom to vape between classes. One person would be the lookout, and if a teacher or campus police officer in the hall looked like they might be coming towards the bathroom, the lookout would flip the lights on and off, and we'd all put our vapes away. But at home, my mom found my Juul under my mattress. I told her that I hadn't used it and that someone had given it to me to try, but I hadn't decided whether to try it yet. It was a lie. I had been using it for almost a year and a half. She threw it away, but I just bought another one the next day.
Where'd you get your Juul and pods?
I got both the Juul and some pods from my older brother. Then I started buying pods from people at school. It's easy to buy and sell in the locker rooms because coaches don't want to be in there. Same with bathrooms. There are so many bathrooms at my school, so it's impossible to police. And the teachers don't want to use the student bathrooms either. Everyone jokingly calls the bathrooms Juul rooms now, even the kids who don't vape.
Yeah, I mean, I don't vape, and sometimes I worry that if I go into a bathroom, I might be caught in there by an adult who sees other people in there vaping.
I've seen that happen a lot. A kid will come into the bathroom while we are vaping and turn around and walk back out. I've talked with kids who say they get spot a lookout, so they just avoid the bathroom and rush to another one between classes to avoid us. It's kind of messed up.
So how did you get the money to buy pods?
Pods aren't cheap, and I ran out of my allowance money fast. My friends would steal cash out of other people's backpacks, but I was scared that I'd get caught, so I started dealing instead. My brother would get pods from his dealer behind the middle school, and he would use some and sell some. Eventually, he split the job with me. He'd take a quarter to sell to his friends, and I'd take a quarter to sell to my friends. And then we'd keep the other half to use, and then use that money to buy more from his dealer.
Did that work?
For almost 2 years, until one day I left a new stash of pods in my locker before practice. When I got back, they were missing. At first, I was scared the campus police had raided the locker room, so I spent the whole day waiting to get pulled out of class. But when nothing happened, I realized that someone had stolen them. I probably should have been relieved, but I was terrified. I had no pods for myself, and I couldn't pay my brother back. I figured I could try to bum hits off of friends, but if I couldn't sell pods, I couldn't pay my brother. I didn't know what his dealer would do if my brother didn't have enough money. That's when it dawned on me. I'm a drug dealer. I was just a normal freshman at my high school, but now I'm a drug dealer. I was so scared. I ended up stealing money out of some teammates' wallets just to pay my brother. I felt like such an awful person.
If you had to guess, how many people do you think vape at your school?
Most of the kids I hang out with vape. That's probably because of who I hang out with. I've definitely lost friends because of vaping, particularly after I started dealing and trying to get other people into it. If I had to guess how many kids are into vaping at my school, it's probably closer to half of the school that has at least tried it.
Have you tried to quit vaping?
Several times. Going cold turkey hasn't worked at all, so I've tried to cut back instead. It's been really hard dealing with withdrawal, and the anxiety really sucks. Plus, since all my friends vape, it's hard to stop.
If you could talk to your younger self before you started vaping, what would you tell him?
I'd tell them to never touch the stuff. I know that's kind of the obvious answer, but it's true. Trying to get off nicotine is the worst feeling ever, and vaping just isn't fun anymore. If I go without a hit for too long, my body gets really tense, and I feel like I'm drowning. I can't focus in my Zoom classes without vaping, and I have to deal more after school to pay for pods. I thought I was so cool when my brother's friends would share with me, but now I feel like a total failure. I really wish I could get out of this, but I don't know how. I feel like I'm digging a deeper hole that I can't climb out of. Just don't do it. Just don't.
Thank you for doing this interview.
If this helps kids avoid vaping, then it was worth it. I don't want anyone else to go through what I'm going through.